What's going on, guys? Tim Harrison here. I hope you're doing well. So it's been a while since I've posted a talking head video like this. It's been a while since I've really posted much of anything this year, if I'm being honest, at least consistently. Funny enough, earlier this year, I posted that video, I failed in 2024 video, and a lot of the reasons that I said I failed in 2024 was because I didn't make more content and videos like this. And here we are in September, I think it's September 7th as of recording this, and this is the second video, talking head video, that I've done in 2025. So I wouldn't say that I've failed this year so far, but I will say that I've been very busy. The reason I jumped on here today was because I just felt really inspired to make something. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to make a video on, but I knew what I could do, which is the classic what is in my gear bag for 2025 video. So yeah, I recently had the opportunity of going with my church on a missions trip to Kingston, Jamaica. I was asked by my church to be the designated filmmaker for our team. It was really an honor to be able to use my talent and my ability and my passion for filmmaking and photography to be able to serve the local church and the church abroad. So yeah, the cool thing about this was my first time out of the country, period. So that was a really cool experience. But in addition to that, it was my first time flying out of the country, obviously, with camera gear. Well, because of this, I chose to go very minimalist with my gear. That being said, minimalist for me is pretty much what I run on a daily basis anyways when I have camera gigs or film gigs, even locally. Maybe you're just a beginner, or maybe you run a little bit of a tighter budget like me, and you want to know some good minimalist gear that you can use to make a really good quality film if you know what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to make this video. I also realized, which is why I'm making this video, not everyone has the money to go out and buy that camera that they want, and not everyone has the money to buy that set of lenses that they want. And yeah, this video is for that individual. Like I said, nothing on this list is going to be the newest, best, or fanciest toy out there. If you're looking for that, this isn't the video for you. So right now I have most of everything laid out in front of me on this table here. Keep in mind, this is not everything that I brought. There was some other little tools and gizmos and cords and that kind of thing, and tripods that I'm just not going to put on the table here for the sake of not having too much of a mess. And just because those aren't really the fun things to talk about anyways. But these are the main things that I use consistently. So I forgot to get my gimbal. Since it's already in my hand, we'll start with this, I guess. But yeah, this is the Ronin DJI RS3 Mini. The reason I like this gimbal so much is because of the fact it's lightweight and it's so small. If you're really needing something to hold more weight, this probably isn't going to be the best gimbal for you. But for documentary work and weddings or corporate work, this is going to be great. Like, again, minimalist, lightweight, you can't beat it for the price, and it's not super expensive anymore as it's pretty old. Up next, this is just a pack of diopters, or diopters, however you say it. I got these on Amazon. So all this is, because I don't have a macro lens and I don't feel like buying a macro lens because I rarely need macro shots. If I can open the darn thing. I'm struggling with Velcro. So yeah, like I said, this is just a pack of 4 diopters. For those of you who don't know what these are, is essentially a pack of magnifying glasses that you put directly on your camera like a filter, and it just magnifies your image. Don't really need a macro lens. Don't even use these all that much, but I think they're good to have in my bag. Never know when you might need that up close shot. Once again, guys, nothing fancy here. This is just a little K&F concept filter pouch. Got this on Amazon, just like the diopters, got it on Amazon. You don't want your filters clanking around in your bag, and you also don't want a ton of little filter cases. At least I don't. Some people might like keeping their filters in the actual cases they come in, unless it's something like this that has its own independent, like, nice case. I like just getting a pouch to put all those in. So inside of this pouch, I have the Tiffin Pro Black Mist 1/4 strength filter. When I was in Jamaica, this filter stayed on my camera the whole trip. Some people don't like a 1/4 strength, and some people don't like the Black Mist effect anyways. I know there's some other filters that does things similarly, just not as strong, but I personally do kind of like that weird, I don't want to call it dreamy, but to me it's almost a dreamy effect. And I don't want to use the word cinematic because that's definitely not what cinematic means, but it does give it kind of a deeper cinematic feel. It cuts down a lot on the sharpness of the lens, because a lot of these lenses are very clinically sharp. I don't necessarily like that. Depending on what I'm trying to convey in my story or what the purpose of the video is, I kind of like that nostalgic, out of this world type feel. This is the 82mm thread, so this stays on my 24-70 lens. Up next, we can talk a little bit about audio. So we'll talk about the shotgun mic first. This is a Rode. I don't know which one it is. This is the Rode Video Mic Go. So once again, there are much better microphones on the market. I've had this one for a while. Got it on Amazon. Once again, I got to see so much stuff off of Amazon. But again, just for a mic, just to collect scratch audio, for me, this works perfectly. Whether it's a documentary or whether it's a wedding, this isn't going to be my main sound or main audio anyways. This is just pretty much run and gun audio. So if I just need scratch audio of cars passing by, ambient, something going on in the vicinity, or maybe just people talking, or I just walk up to somebody and I say, hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z, or whatever the question is, this is just good on the fly audio. Again, it's not going to be the best, but it works great. And yeah, this is the Rode Video Mic Go. For personal run and gun mics that I would put on a subject or myself, these are just the original DJI mics. These aren't the version 2, version 3. I think they got version 4 or 5 now. And as you can see, I'm missing a mic and the receiver because those are both on my camera right now. But yeah, I love these little mics. And the reason being is because they're pretty small. You can record onto them directly as a nice backup if you don't want to, if you plug directly into your camera and your camera jack's kind of funny or your cord's kind of finicky. I've had this happen before actually. There was something wrong with one of my cords that plugs from my camera into the microphone, and I lost all of my audio that came directly from the camera. But because I had one of these little mics on my subject recording, I was still able to get some audio. So they are very versatile. And there's no reason you couldn't at least start doing documentaries, or I don't know about weddings. I wouldn't recommend this for weddings necessarily. You can make it happen. I have filmed weddings with this, but for travel documentaries or travel run and gun stuff, this was great. Nothing fancy here. Once again, just a little memory card holder. Keep all of my extra memory cards in this here. That way I don't lose them. But I took a lot of memory cards with me, and I took 2 SSDs, which I don't have on the table with me, mainly because I forgot them, but it is what it is. The SanDisk SSDs, I had a 4 terabyte and a 2 terabyte with me because I knew I was going to be shooting a lot, and I wanted to make sure that every night when I got home, I was able to back up my footage. Buy more than one memory card. Get several memory cards, and then some SSDs and another form of hard drive to back all your footage up on. Dog hair and dust, man. I realize this probably isn't the best order to go in, but I'm just doing it on the fly. I'm not following a script or anything, so this is what we're getting. Y'all have no idea how many takes I've had to do to get this video done. Up next, we're going to talk about the Peter McKinnon VND. This is the 82mm thread, so it goes on my 24-70. This is probably one of the best investments I've ever made. Not necessarily this brand, but having a VND is literally game changing. And this is something that, especially if you're doing filmmaking, I would recommend putting this into your bag. This came in handy so many times, and this pretty much just stayed on my camera up until the evenings. Like, this was on my cameras from morning to whenever the sun started going down, especially in the bright Jamaican sun. I didn't have to drive my shutter, didn't have to drive my aperture or smash my aperture shutter, whatever. This helped me keep everything nice and properly exposed. Once you have your camera, once you have a solid lens, once you have memory cards, once you have good lighting, get a VND. There might be other things that come before the order that I just mentioned, but you do need to get a VND at some point, in my humble opinion. Up next, we have the Sony G Master 35mm lens. Attached to this lens, which I don't necessarily always have attached, but I did bring it with me on my trip and I used it quite often for this lens, is another Peter McKinnon variable neutral density filter, but this one is the 67mm, which fits onto this lens, which is great that I'm able to have a VND on my 24-70 and my 35mm. 35mm, in my opinion, is just a good all-around lens focal length. It's not too close and too punchy like a 50, and it's not going to be as wide obviously as a 24, but 35 in my opinion gives you that nice middle ground. If I want to, I can get really nice profiles and headshots with this thing, or I can take a few steps back and I can still get decent landscapes with it. Plus this takes amazing stills as well. It's a great video lens, but I would argue that it's a better still lens than a video lens. This one does have some focus breathing issues from what I've seen when it comes to video, mainly when things start getting close to it. But overall though, this is an amazing lens. This is the this is the G Master 35mm f1.4, which is awesome, being able to get those extra stops of light and extra creamy bokeh, or however the heck you say that. So I love this lens a lot. So I'm sure you guys are all wondering, the table's about clear. There's only what looks like to be like a notebook or a wallet left on the table. What camera do you use? Well, the camera that I use is right here. It's the one that I'm using doing the top down with, which is why I can't show you. Just talking about it though, like I use the Sony a7C. The Sony a7C was the first mirrorless hybrid camera that I ever purchased. It was the first camera that allowed me to start doing gigs as a photographer, and even more so gigs as a videographer. If the project requires it, I will occasionally rent an FX3 or borrow an FX3 from a buddy. In fact, the camera I'm shooting on right now with my main talking head is an FX3. I had a video project a few days ago for my buddy who owns this. Ironically enough, he got married and he wanted me to film his wedding, and which I did. And he let me use his FX3 and the A7C so I could have a second angle, but he let me use the FX3 to film his wedding, and I just haven't got the camera back to him yet. I love the fact that I get to use this camera for a few days more until I give it back to him. But he's away on his honeymoon and I get to use the FX3 while he is gone. So that makes me very happy. So right now I'm using the FX3 as my main camera, and the A7C has been my secondary camera, which is giving me the top down. But I say all that to say this, I don't own the FX3. The main camera that I use for all of my video work is the A7C, unless the project or budget allows me to rent an FX3. The FX3 is my dream camera, but my goal is to get my business running. My goal isn't to buy the first most expensive piece of gear and equipment that I want and then crashes my whole business, right? Like if I have the FX3, but I have no money to run the business or to put back into the business, then I don't have a business and I have a $4,000 paperweight sitting on my desk. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. I'm actively saving for one, but right now, Sony a7C is my camera and is the camera that I took with me on my trip to Jamaica, and it did great. The biggest things I will say about that camera was it doesn't experience heating issues necessarily like some cameras. A7 IV. However, if you're shooting at 4K for long periods of time at a time in the hot sun, it can eventually overheat. Once again, I was in Jamaica, so it was pretty hot there. Granted, it wasn't near as hot there as it was here in North Carolina, ironically enough. That week I was gone, but it was still hot. I had a few incidents where my camera did overheat on me and it did shut down because it doesn't have an internal fan like the FX3 or the FX30. So that's something to think about as well when going into purchasing a camera. You really got to look at like, what are you going to be using the camera for, and what kind of environments will you be using the camera in? How long will you be shooting in those environments? All that stuff needs to come into play when you're buying a camera or looking at getting a camera, not just what everyone else is telling you to buy or because it's the fanciest thing out there. But anyways, I say all that to say this. That's the reason that camera's not in my hands right now, is because it's being used for a top-down shot. Also, because of that, don't have my lens for that camera on the table either. But the lens of choice that I use that pretty much lives on my camera 80 to 90% of the time is the Sigma 24-70. You're not going to see a major difference between the Sigma 24-7 and the Sony G Master 24-7. But the difference is the Sigma 24-7, as of when I bought it, is probably gonna be $1,200 cheaper. Like when I bought the lens, it was around $800 or $1,000. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I might have spent $1,000 on that lens. But the Sony 24-70, if I'm not mistaken, that lens is close to $2,000. I could be wrong, but it's pretty close to $2,000. And I just don't feel like spending that kind of money on a single lens. So I have the Sigma, and it's a great lens. A lot of people love that lens, highly rated, and it's done amazing for me. So I use the Sigma 24-7. We're probably wondering why this little beat up notebook looking thing is on my list. Dogs chewed it up. It's beat up, been in my back pocket. It's a notebook. Just a little field notes notebook. And believe it or not, this thing comes in handy more than I thought that it would. One thing that filmmaking and photography in general has done for me, it's really forced me to slow down, and it's really forced me to pay attention to little details, and it's really forced me to be curious about the world around me, and it's forced me to be curious about individuals and people and their stories. And a big part of filmmaking, especially documentary filmmaking, or really any good filmmaking, is telling a story. And for me, having a notebook with me ever present in my back pocket or my camera bag, which is typically where this lives when I'm on a gig, is that it gives me the opportunity to take notes about what's going on around me. Maybe notes about the story. Maybe I'm interviewing an individual, doing a preliminary interview with an individual about a story we plan to tell. And maybe I want to take notes about their life. Maybe I want to take notes about things I want to come back and revisit about the subject or the topic. Maybe there's a location they tell me about that I need to be able to go to. Maybe there's a camera setting that I have locked in perfect for a particular scene, and I want to make sure I can duplicate that. Maybe there's a way I have my lighting apparatus or something like that. I can write all that stuff down. I've really found that journaling has made me a better filmmaker, and has made me a better writer in general for the films that I make. And I would really encourage you that if you're not writing and if you're not taking notes, that you should really start doing that. Yes, there's your notes app in your phone or whatever app you're using electronically, but to me, there's just something about pen and paper. You can't beat it, in my opinion. So if you don't have one of these, or just a notebook in general, I would definitely recommend that you get something to be able to take detailed or just even scratch notes in. So before I show you the bag, I actually have one more honorable mention, which is my computer. I mentioned a little bit ago SSD cards and, you know, obviously memory cards, and being able to back up your footage on the fly, especially if you're doing like a documentary away, like abroad, wouldn't have been possible without my baby, which is my MacBook M3. Don't remember the details beyond that. I know there's a terabyte of memory on it. I think it's the 32 gigs of unified memory, which, you know, probably could have got something more than that. But again, for the price, this does everything I need it to do. This has been a machine in the editing room. I haven't had any issues with DaVinci Resolve, which is my editing software. But then again, I'm not doing crazy edits that require all kinds of work in the Fusion page, where I'm doing like crazy like After Effects style effects. That's going to really slow down my computer. And most of my edits are pretty straightforward, which doesn't require a ton of RAM anyways. So this has been doing great for me. And this is my baby. Like, I love this computer. This was one of the best purchases that I've made. And once again, don't have to buy a MacBook. You don't have to spend that kind of money on it. But if you're getting into filmmaking, you do need a good computer, because you're gonna have to edit this stuff, and you need something that can move for you. The last thing you want to do is have a computer that you can't even scrub through your timeline because it has to load or buffer every 1 or 2 frames. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word, but it has to buffer every 1 or 2 frames. I had a computer like that beforehand, and it was like that, and it was terrible. So yeah, get a good computer. It doesn't have to be a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 computer, but get something that has good RAM on it. And the memory matters, but the memory doesn't matter as much, because hopefully you're saving your stuff on an SSD or a hard drive versus the computer itself. But yeah, so MacBook Pro, love this computer as I drop it on the counter. Dang it. Probably just broke my baby. It just broke my computer. I just told him how much I love it. I dropped it. And not to mention it just looks cool too. Look at that skin on there. But yeah, MacBook Pro. And last but not least is my camera bag. This is the only bag for camera equipment that I took with me on the plane to Jamaica. And I'm telling you, I bought this bag maybe 2 weeks before I left. And this is, I know I've said this a few times, but this has been one of the best purchases I've ever made. The camera bags that I've had in the past just didn't hold up, whether they didn't hold enough equipment or maybe they were just ugly. I don't know. They were just the camera bags I had in the past. They just didn't do it for me like this one does. This is the PGY Tech. I believe this is the 1MO Lite. That sounds hilarious, but the PGY Tech 1MO Lite. And by no means is this the biggest bag that you can get. Like if you have a ton of gear, then you might need a bag bigger than this. But once again, I'm going minimalist. This bag is so small, like you can't really tell from the video, but this bag literally is big enough to fit up under the seat of a plane. Like the seat in front of you, you can fit this up under there. And I bought it with that intention. My goal was to, when I got on the plane, once again, it was my first time going out of the country. I didn't want to have to check anything. I didn't want to take a risk of losing any of my camera gear, any of my equipment. I didn't want to have to put anything, I didn't want to check anything just in case we lost the bag. In my suitcase with my clothes, it was a pretty big suitcase. I did have a tripod, but other than that, that was the only camera equipment that didn't make it into this bag. But yeah, attached to it here, I'm not sure if you can see it. This is just a Peak Design. This is a Peak Design clip. Don't remember what is actually called, but I can just have an attachment that I can put on my actual camera. I can just clip it right here and I can wear my camera just hanging off of me. And that's pretty much where my camera lived when I was walking around with this bag in Jamaica and I wasn't filming at the time. But yeah, this bag is awesome. But outside of my camera itself, my computer and this bag, what I would say are some of the best purchases that I've ever made. You need a good bag. You need a good bag. It doesn't gotta be a $300, $400, $500 bag, but you need a good bag. And in my opinion, if you have, you know, if you're going light, you can't go wrong with the PGY Tech 1MO Lite. I genuinely don't know what I would have done if I didn't have this on my trip. So yeah, guys, that pretty much wraps it up. That's just a brief, don't know how brief this video was, but that was just an overview of what is in my everyday carry / travel filmmaking bag. And once again, the goal of this video is just to show you that you don't need a lot to be successful. Once again, this video was by no means intended to tell you what you should or shouldn't spend your money on. At the end of the day, it's your money. If you want to go out there and spend it all on that $5,000 camera and you only have one memory card and no lighting, then that's on you. You can do that, but I'm not doing that. But anyways, yeah. I guess I'll catch you all on the next one. I don't really know what else to say from here, so I'm gonna sign out now while the getting is good. See ya. Peace.